The silence was different this time, and Ellen knew something extraordinary was about to unfold. What started as her regular Wednesday show was about to become the most beautiful story of friendship, overcoming every barrier that television had ever witnessed. 12-year-old Michael Chen sat in the second row of Ellen's audience, his hands fidgeting with a small notebook while his eyes darted nervously around the studio. Beside him sat his mother, Lisa Chen, who had brought Michael to the show after receiving an unexpected phone call from Ellen's producers 3 days earlier. What Michael didn't know was that his classmate Sarah Williams had sent Ellen a video that had moved the entire production team to tears within minutes of watching it. The 11-year-old girl with bright red hair had filmed herself in her bedroom, speaking directly to the camera with the earnest determination that only children possess when they believe in something with their whole hearts. Ellen was in the middle of her opening monologue, sharing a light-hearted story about her morning routine, when she paused deliberately and looked directly at Michael. "I have someone very special in our audience today, and I think it's time we talked about something important." Michael's anxiety spiked immediately as Ellen approached his seat, his autism making the sudden attention overwhelming and almost unbearable. He clutched his notebook tighter, a collection of intricate drawings and detailed observations that served as his safe space in a world that often felt too loud, too chaotic, and too unpredictable. "This is Michael," Ellen announced gently, recognizing his discomfort and adjusting her energy accordingly to create a calmer environment. "And Michael, you don't know this yet, but someone at your school cares about you very much." Lisa Chen reached over and squeezed her son's hand with the practiced comfort of a mother who had navigated countless difficult social situations. She'd spent years watching Michael struggle to connect with other children, always on the outside looking in, and her heart ached for the isolation he experienced daily. "Michael," Ellen continued, kneeling down to his level with the respect of someone who understood the importance of meeting him where he was comfortable, "I received a video from someone in your class. Would you like to see it?" Michael nodded slightly, though his body language suggested he was preparing for something that might hurt. A defensive posture born from experience. He'd experienced enough rejection and misunderstanding to expect the worst from social interactions, even when adults promised something good was coming. The studio's large screen lit up with the image of Sarah Williams sitting cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by art supplies and books. Her freckled face was serious as she spoke directly to the camera, with the kind of honesty that only comes from genuine caring and a desire to make things right. "Hi, Ellen," Sarah began, her voice clear and determined despite the slight nervousness that showed in her fidgeting hands. "My name is Sarah Williams, and I'm in 7th grade at Roosevelt Middle School with a boy named Michael Chen." Michael's eyes widened as he saw his classmate on the screen, genuinely surprised that anyone at school even knew his name or cared enough to think about him. He'd spent the first 3 months of the school year trying to be invisible, eating lunch alone in the library, and avoiding group activities that made him feel overwhelmed and out of place. "Michael sits by himself every day at lunch," Sarah continued, her voice growing more passionate as she spoke about something that clearly bothered her deeply. "He draws the most amazing pictures in his notebook, but he never talks to anyone, because I think he's scared that people won't understand him." Ellen watched Michael's reaction carefully, seeing the mix of surprise and vulnerability crossing his face, as someone acknowledged his existence at school in a positive way. This was clearly the first time anyone had noticed him with kindness, rather than judgment or indifference. "I really want to be Michael's friend," Sarah said, leaning closer to the camera with the intensity of someone making an important confession. "But I don't know how to talk to him because he's different from other kids, and I don't want to say the wrong thing and make him feel worse." The audience was completely silent, captivated by this young girl's genuine desire to connect with someone she barely knew but clearly cared about. Ellen felt her own emotions stirring, as Sarah's sincerity filled the studio with an energy that transcended typical television entertainment. "Ellen, can you help me understand how to be a good friend to someone like Michael?" Sarah asked, her voice breaking slightly with emotion. "I think everyone deserves to have at least one friend, and Michael seems like he would be an amazing friend if someone just gave him a chance." The video ended, and the studio remained quiet except for the sound of people wiping away tears and sniffling with emotion. Michael stared at the screen in amazement, unable to process that someone actually wanted to be his friend and had cared enough to reach out to Ellen on his behalf. "Michael," Ellen said softly, her voice filled with the tenderness of someone who understood the magnitude of this moment. "Did you know Sarah felt this way about you?" He shook his head slowly, his voice barely a whisper when he finally spoke, the words carrying years of loneliness and disappointment. "Nobody wants to be my friend." "Why do you think that?" Ellen asked gently, creating space for Michael to share his perspective. "I'm too weird and I say the wrong things, and I don't understand their jokes," Michael replied, each word revealing the pain of countless failed social interactions. Ellen's heart broke as she heard the pain in this young boy's voice, recognizing the isolation that too many children with autism experience in educational and social settings. "Michael, what would you say if I told you that Sarah is here today?" Michael's head snapped up, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and terror at the possibility of face-to-face interaction. "She's here? Right now?" Ellen gestured toward the wings of the stage, and slowly Sarah Williams walked out into the bright lights, her red hair catching the studio illumination. She looked nervous but determined, carrying a wrapped package in her hands that she'd clearly prepared with great care and thought. The audience began to applaud with genuine warmth, but Ellen held up her hand for quiet, understanding that too much stimulation could overwhelm Michael and derail this delicate moment. Sarah approached cautiously, clearly trying to be respectful of Michael's comfort zone and personal space needs. "Hi, Michael," Sarah said simply, standing a few feet away to give him the physical distance that many autistic individuals need to feel safe. "I'm Sarah. I sit 3 rows behind you in Mr. Johnson's science class." Michael looked at her with wonder, as if she were a mythical creature that had materialized from his dreams of friendship and acceptance. "You know my name? You really know who I am?" "Of course I know your name," Sarah replied with a genuine smile that transformed her entire face. "I've been watching you draw those incredible dragons in your notebook. You're like the best artist in our whole school, maybe even better than the high school kids." For the first time since arriving at the studio, Michael smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his entire demeanor and showed the joy that lived beneath his anxiety. "You've been watching me draw? You think they're good?" Ellen stepped back slightly, understanding that she was witnessing something magical that needed to unfold naturally, without adult interference. Sarah moved slightly closer, encouraged by Michael's positive response and the genuine interest he was showing in their conversation. "I brought you something," Sarah said, offering him the wrapped package with both hands as a gesture of respect. "I hope you like it, but if you don't, that's okay too." Michael carefully unwrapped the gift with the precise movements that characterized everything he did, his hands trembling slightly with excitement and nerves. Inside was a set of professional drawing pencils and a beautiful sketchbook with a dragon embossed on the cover in gold foil. "I asked my mom to help me pick these out at the art store," Sarah explained, watching his reaction with obvious hope. "I thought maybe we could draw together sometime, if you want to. I'm not very good at art, but I really want to learn." Michael clutched the sketchbook to his chest, overwhelmed by the kindness of this gesture and the thoughtfulness behind the gift selection. "Nobody has ever given me art supplies before. This is the most beautiful sketchbook I've ever seen." Ellen could see that both children were nervous but genuine in their desire to connect, their body language showing the vulnerability and hope that comes with taking emotional risks. "Sarah, what made you want to reach out to Michael specifically?" "Because he looks lonely, and I know exactly what that feels like," Sarah answered without hesitation, her honesty cutting through any pretense. "I moved here 3 months ago when my dad got transferred for his job, and I didn't have any friends either. I thought maybe we could figure out friendship together." Michael looked up at Sarah with new understanding, realizing they had more in common than he'd ever imagined possible. "You didn't have friends either, but you seem so confident and normal." "I pretended to be confident," Sarah admitted with the wisdom that comes from personal struggle, "but inside I was scared and lonely too. When I saw you drawing by yourself, I thought maybe you felt the same way I did." Ellen knelt down between the two children, moved by their authentic connection and the honesty they were sharing with each other. "Michael, is there anything you'd like to ask Sarah?" Michael thought for a moment, then opened his notebook to a page filled with detailed dragon drawings that showed incredible artistic skill and imagination. "Do you really think my drawings are good? Or are you just being nice?" Sarah leaned in to look at the artwork more closely, her eyes widening with genuine amazement as she took in the intricate details and creative designs. "Michael, these are incredible. You draw better than some of the artists in my mom's coffee table art books. These dragons look like they could come alive." The validation meant everything to Michael, who had never received positive feedback about his artistic abilities from a peer his own age. "Would you really want to draw with me, even though I'm not good at talking sometimes?" "I would love to," Sarah replied enthusiastically, her excitement genuine and infectious. "Maybe you could teach me how to draw dragons like yours, and I could help you with other things if you want." Ellen stood up, recognizing that something beautiful was happening between these two children that went far beyond what she'd expected. "You know what I think we should do right now?" She walked to her desk and returned with a large easel and a complete set of art supplies that her production team had prepared. "I think we should let Michael and Sarah create something together right here, right now, so everyone can see what friendship looks like when it's being born." The children looked at each other excitedly, the initial nervousness replaced by shared enthusiasm for art and the possibility of collaboration. Michael opened his new sketchbook while Sarah grabbed some colored pencils, both of them moving with the energy of children who had found their element. "What should we draw?" Sarah asked, deferring to Michael's obvious expertise while still participating as an equal partner. The question made Michael feel valued and respected, emotions he rarely experienced at school or in social situations. "How about a dragon that represents friendship?" Michael suggested, his confidence growing with each positive interaction and validation. The metaphor was perfect for what was happening between them, something magical and powerful emerging from their connection. As the children began to draw together, the studio watched in fascination as their different styles and perspectives combined into something unique. Michael's detailed knowledge of dragon anatomy combined with Sarah's creative color choices and bold strokes created something neither could have accomplished alone. "This is amazing," Sarah said as they worked, genuinely impressed by Michael's skill and technical ability. "You see things differently than other people, and it makes your art special and beautiful." Michael paused his drawing, looking at Sarah with deep appreciation for her words and perspective. "You're the first person who ever said being different was good instead of wrong." Ellen watched this interaction with tears in her eyes, understanding that she was witnessing the birth of a friendship that could change both children's lives forever. "Michael, how does it feel to have someone appreciate your art?" "It feels like maybe I'm not as weird as I thought," Michael replied honestly, his voice stronger than it had been all day. "Sarah makes me feel like being different is okay, maybe even good." The audience was completely engaged in this genuine moment of connection, seeing two children find common ground despite their differences and challenges. Ellen knew this was television at its most meaningful, showing real human connection rather than manufactured drama. "Sarah," Ellen said, "what have you learned about Michael in these few minutes?" Sarah looked thoughtfully at her new friend before answering, taking time to consider her words carefully. "I learned that he's really smart and creative, and that he just needs someone to be patient with him," Sarah said with wisdom beyond her 11 years. "And I learned that making friends is actually pretty easy when you're just honest about wanting to connect." Ellen made a decision that would extend this moment beyond the show and into the children's real lives. "I have an idea. How would you both like to attend a special art camp this summer?" Both children's faces lit up with excitement and possibility, but Ellen wasn't finished with her surprises. "It's a camp specifically designed for kids with different abilities to work together on creative projects, where being different is celebrated." Michael's mother, Lisa, began crying as she realized her son was experiencing acceptance and opportunity for the first time in his young life. Michael has never had an opportunity like this, or a friend who understood him. "Well, he does now," Ellen said firmly, her voice carrying the weight of someone making a serious commitment. "And Sarah, your kindness has just opened up a whole new world for both of you." As the segment continued, Ellen learned more about both children's backgrounds and the challenges they'd faced. Michael's autism made social situations challenging, but his artistic ability was extraordinary and deserved nurturing. Sarah had moved to town when her military father was transferred, leaving her own close friends behind and understanding the pain of isolation from personal experience. Her empathy for Michael came from her own recent experience of being the outsider trying to find her place. The most beautiful thing about this friendship, Ellen told the audience, is that both children found exactly what they needed in each other at exactly the right time. Ellen arranged for both families to stay in touch and provided resources for the school to better support children with autism. The Art Camp Scholarship was just the beginning of opportunities that would help both children thrive academically and socially. 3 months later, Michael and Sarah returned to Ellen's show to share their progress and the development of their friendship. They'd become inseparable friends, with Sarah learning to understand Michael's autism and Michael teaching Sarah advanced drawing techniques and artistic perspectives. The best part, Sarah told Ellen during their return visit, is that other kids at school started being nicer to Michael when they saw us being friends and having fun together. Michael, now more confident and articulate, added his own perspective with the growth that comes from feeling accepted. Sarah taught me that I don't have to hide who I am. She likes me because I'm different, not despite it. Their friendship had sparked a school-wide inclusion program, with Sarah becoming an advocate for students with autism and Michael gaining confidence to participate in art competitions and social activities. Ellen's closing words that day became the motto for their school's inclusion program and inspired similar initiatives nationwide. True friendship doesn't require us to be the same. It only requires us to see the beauty in our differences. The sketchbook Sarah gave Michael that first day became filled with drawings they created together, each page representing another step in their growing friendship and mutual understanding. Michael's artistic abilities flourished with Sarah's encouragement, and Sarah's empathy deepened through understanding Michael's unique perspective on the world. But perhaps the most beautiful outcome was watching Michael transform from a lonely, isolated boy into a confident young artist who understood that being different was actually his greatest strength. And Sarah learned that sometimes the most meaningful friendships come from reaching out to someone who seems unreachable. Because true friendship isn't about finding someone exactly like you or someone who fits into predetermined social categories. It's about finding someone who sees your heart and decides it's worth knowing, regardless of how differently that heart might beat or express itself.